It's a huge moment for Fulham here, reaching the quarterfinals for the second time in the last 3 seasons. They were eliminated by Manchester United, and you mentioned that as recently as well, but they eliminated Manchester United from the FA Cup for the first time since 1908, so quite literally making some history here.
If they told you, Chris, there will be 2 teams from London in the quarterfinals, you would say probably Arsenal or Chelsea, I don't know. And no, it's Crystal Palace and Fulham.
Yeah.
How about that?
It truly is surprising, and I'm sure it was surprising in the surroundings here, Herc, but we obviously want to focus on what you saw from Antonee Robinson, especially playing a big role in this one.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this was a massive game from Fulham. But that's right. You wouldn't have pegged Fulham to be where they are right now. In fact, Fulham are coming off of losing the last 2 games this season against Manchester United. As bad as Manchester United have been this season, 1-0 wins. And you saw there, 1908, the last time they eliminated Manchester United from the FA Cup. I believe that's the first and only time they played Manchester United and eliminated was 1908. And now this go around, they had 20 games out of the last 21 where they lost to Manchester United. It was all going against them. They're playing on the road at Old Trafford, just storied grounds. And yet they found a way. And this goes to Antonee Robinson. I'll tell you what, being here in London, being here in England, and getting a feel for how people receive Antonee Robinson, how well respected he is, how big time of a player, even though I felt he didn't have his best game. I thought he was a little heavy-footed at times, but the way he was able to go out there and be composed and how important he is, not only for his team defensively, to offensively, everything drives through Antonee Robinson. He's one of the players, every time I see him play, that's got the most touches on the field. He's one of the players that's always actively vocal, actively instructing his team. He's an organizer. He slots into the midfield at times. This game, he was final third, as we normally see him driving down the field, but nonetheless very important. And when it came down to crunch time, when you needed a penalty kick, this is a staple of Raul Jimenez. I know we're going to talk about Raul Jimenez and his penalty kicks, but I didn't know that Antonee Robinson had this in his bag. When you talk about nonchalant, let me just go up there and put it in, not phased, ice in my veins. That's
he
what it
learned
was.
from the best, Herc.
What did you make of Antonee Robinson's performance here, Barak? I mean, as Herc just said, maybe a little heavy-footed at times, but...
Yeah, well, he missed, I think, every single cross.
Yeah.
Sometimes Mazraoui got the better out of him. Still, as just Herc said, he's the leader. He's the MVP Fulham. Maybe not in Old Trafford, but who cares? I mean, he can be MVP every single game.
Yeah, absolutely. How big is this for someone like Mauricio Pochettino to see Herc, as you just mentioned, showing different tricks that he has in his bag?
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I was one to not rate Antonee Robinson when he first came out to the scene for the U.S. men's national team. And I couldn't have been more wrong in what I thought his progression was going to be like. He was always that very intense fellow down the left-hand side who had speed, who had a physical presence, who would try to drive the game, but he looked one-dimensional. And as the years progressed, there were people who saw things in Antonee Robinson, because if you will remember, there was a failed medical at AC Milan a few years back before he went to Fulham. He was on Milan's radar back then, so they saw the talent there. And then he just grew. He grew. Not only for Fulham in the Premier League, but for the U.S. men's national team. Now you have a player that's very composed, the reigning, by the way, U.S. men's national team player of the year, a player that's just so composed and so in his own skin. You can see how he's grown. You can see how much more he's added to that toolkit. He's still the same player that drives. He's a powerful presence, physical presence, but he's better with the ball, makes better decisions, gets involved. And by that, you don't have to take it to me. Go look at his stats. He is the defender with most assists in the Premier League. Not the Belgian League, not the Eredivisie, the Premier League, what many think is the best league in the world. And today, if you open up a paper, if you open up .com anywhere, it's Antonee Robinson rumors of going to Liverpool. They're asking the Liverpool greats if he'd be a good replacement for Robertson, if he'd be somebody to spark a fire under Robertson. And how could you blame these people? He's one of the best players right now for his team, and certainly one of the best backs in the Premier League. And I'll leave it at this. the progression to Antonee Robinson with Mauricio Pochettino. Mauricio Pochettino comes on in the very first game against Panama. We're seeing a wrinkle in Antonee Robinson's game. How much higher up the field he is pushing up. How he's getting more involved in the final third. And then 2-3 games down the line, we see him involved in a midfield position, a central position. When the ball's on the other side, he tucks in as a central midfield player, and he's being asked to be a higher IQ player. There is a progression to Antonee Robinson. I've been surprised, and he keeps getting better.
I mean, a progression, and you're talking about someone, like you said, maybe not MVP every match, but you can expect a leader in him every match, Barak.
Yes, because we're probably at the beginning of the season, if you say, who's the best left back in the Premier League? You would think about, okay, Marco Correa probably in Chelsea, but not, or what about Robertson in Liverpool and Mazraoui in Manchester United? Maybe not quite, but probably you would not think about this guy. And now, if you think about all of the assistances, 10 assistances in Premier League, just as Herc said, and the impact in a good team as Fulham is, because if not a top team, it's one of the most stable teams in the Premier League. Then you wonder, maybe we're with the best left back now in the Premier League. And if you're one of the very best in the Premier League, then you automatically are one of the very best in Europe.
Yeah.
So it's not just a good week or a good month or a mojo he's having now.
Yeah.
He's quite good, and he's in the very best moment of his career. Now, how much he will be able to be in that level? For Fulham, probably he's now in the top.
Right.
But what about Liverpool? What about Arsenal? What about whatever comes? Then you will see if he has what it takes, because Fulham is a very good team. Still, it has not, it's not the pressure of a Champions League team. I don't know, Herc, if he's a Champions League player or not.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're not going to know until we see him in that environment. So Antonee Robinson is a good player right now for Fulham, and I agree with what you're saying. And there's a big jump from Fulham to a team like Liverpool, who today are arguably the best team in the world. So it remains to be seen. But regardless, Antonee Robinson has garnered this opportunity, has earned this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And a point that you mentioned that's so important, he's at this point because he's been able to maintain himself at this consistent level. So as his teammate, Raul Jimenez,